Other houses chose dragons, krakens and lions for their sigils. We Tullys took the trout, that most terrifying of fish, especially when it leaks out of the water. I suppose you don't have many options when you live in the Riverlands. Could have been worse. We could have been minnows or wheat. After all, we make a lot of it. Though our land doesn't get as fertile as ours just by water. The old River Kings, Storm Kings, and the Kings of the Rock spilled blood here for thousands of years, squabbling like children over a new toy, until the Ironborn came and spanked them with their axes. Under Harren the Black, their kingdom stretched all the way to the God's Eye, where they built the largest castle Westeros had ever seen. Maesters teach that Harren was a fool, but he had some sense. If you're going to enslave and torture an entire people, you best have thick walls to hide behind. But the very day the last stone was laid in Harrenhal, Aegon Targaryen landed in Westeros. As soon as he saw Aegon's host on the horizon, my ancestor Edmund led the mass desertion of Riverlords to Aegon's side. I doubt Harren even noticed. The problem with huge castles is they blind you to what's outside, both by their size and the arrogance they inspire. Not that the Ironborn ever lacked for that. They take pride in their ignorance of every trapping of civilization. Though any baker could have told them that fire turns stone walls into an oven. And so Harren the Black finally lived up to his name, and the Riverlord swept the Ironborn back to the sea. In return for Edmund's service, House Tully was made Aegon's new Lord Paramount of the Trident, and all the other lords had to swear us fealty. But old habits die hard. The Riverlands are and always have been the middle child of Westeros, caught up in every fart from one lord at another. My ancestors knew that for the Tullys to survive, alliances must be made. Our trout has swum up so many rivers over the centuries and leapt onto so many plates that it's a wonder half the realm's sigils don't have fins by now. Thus, every Tully child is taught family, duty, honor. The Tully words, and pains in the Tully arse. When I returned from the War of the Ninepenny Kings, people called me Sir Brendan. But my older brother Hoster called me Engaged. A great match with a very rich house, to be sure. But I just fought and killed a great deal of men and had no desire to be told when and whom to marry. I broke ties with him, earning the name Blackfish along with my personal sigil, a much more intimidating black trout. I was too stubborn at the time to realize that while other houses fight with swords, House Tully fights with marriages. Then my niece Catelyn's betrothal to Brandon Stark drew us into the war against the Mad King, while my other niece Lysa's betrothal to Jon Arryn cemented the rebellion. If I'd have obeyed my older brother earlier, we'd have had the largest navy in Westeros with us then as well, and our victory would have been swift. Of course, I never mentioned this fact to my brother. He'd have taken it as an apology. My brother is dead now, and my nephew Edmure rules in Riverrun, God's help us. A trout that can't tell the worm from the hook. But he is a Tully, and he is unmarried, and there is a war. We all know how this story ends. Maybe she'll be beautiful. Maybe she'll be rich. As long as she brings swords and men to House Tully, she could look like the fish we hang all over Riverrun. He'll honor his duty to family and swallow it. One blackfish per family can be overlooked. Two, and we'd have to change all those pretty banners.
The Reach is aptly named. We're the ones who give your hands something to do at the table. As the most fertile region of the Seven Kingdoms, we grow the lion's share of the grains and fruit that feed this country. Especially now, since the rebels have burned down the other fields. Thankfully, House Tyrell is here to do its duty to the crown and keep the capital from starvation. Yet, as with all gardens, weeds grow in the Reach too, though few name them as such. Singers fill our heads with chivalry and courtly love, fluff to make boys fight and girls swoon. Oh, the songs are good enough for a pleasure barge down the Manda. They give pleasure to the common people and harmony to the realm. But if the rise of House Tyrell proves anything, it's that virtue and honor have their place. And if you're not careful, that place is the grave. Unlike the Lannisters, Starks, and Arryns, we were never kings in our own right. House Gardner ruled the Reach since the Dawn Age, and we were their stewards. While they warred to enrich their already rich domain, we managed their castle of Highgarden. But then Aegon Targaryen landed with his dragons. Nobody knows why the Gardener King took the field against him. Anyone could see that a man who grows flowers should beware a man who grows fire-breathing monsters. But maybe it wasn't wholly his idea. Maybe someone whispered in his ear about all the face he'd lose with the other 6 kings if he stayed home. The rest is history. The last Gardener King lost his face, along with his body, and his steward Harlan Tyrell promptly yielded Highgarden to Aegon. My grandmother swears that Harlan was like most of our men, and grew up banging steel together too loudly for a thought to penetrate. But luckily, his wife had better sense. Whatever the case, in return for Harlan's show of sense, Aegon proclaimed House Tyrell the Lords of the Reach and Wardens of the South, passing over all the other houses with better claims. House Hightower, who were kings before the Andals came, their seat is the oldest city in Westeros. They call it Old Town. Wealthy, proud, and solitary, there have been Hightowers who wouldn't come down from their great lighthouse for decades. Its name, fittingly, is the Hightower. House Florent, who had actual blood ties to the Gardeners. They whinge about their ancient rights to Highgarden every once in a while, and now that their daughter is married to Stannis Baratheon, about their rights to all of Westeros too. Apparently, putting a fox on your banners doesn't impart a fox's wiles. House Tarly, who still gives the Reach the best soldiers.
Oh yeah.
If Aegon had named them as his lords, the Reach would have become the greatest military camp in the world, until it starved to death. The price for conscripting all the farmers. Yet Aegon chose us. Centuries later, when his descendant Aerys faced rebellion, the Reach stayed loyal. Mostly. My father, Mace, dealt Robert his only defeat in the war, even if it was my father's vanguard who did most of the fighting before he arrived. After the Battle of Ashford, we laid siege to Storm's End, Robert's home. Unfortunately, the war ended before we could take it and free up our armies to go save the king. The new King Robert had a forgiving nature. Our crimes were brushed aside without even one execution for the sake of formality. Our family was surprised until Robert's new hand, Jon Arryn, came by with the bill. The Reach is second only to the Westerlands in wealth, and Robert meant to spend as much of it as he could get his hands on. We gave him the coins he wanted, and later, when he wanted our grain or fruit or wine, he gave them back at whatever price we set. Now, much of Westeros is ashes. The rest of it is armies. As the Starks are fond of saying, winter is coming, and for leagues outside the capital there isn't a harvest to be seen. Have no fear. The Reach is, as always, bountiful. House Tyrell will manage the harvest and keep the Seven Kingdoms from starvation.
Is there any benefit
like
to
the
being
good
the
stewards
Tyrells
we
when
once were?
Just
ask House Gardner.
If the White Walkers attack in the game?
Impregnable. That's how the Vale sees itself. Shielded from Westeros by its mountains. They call the entrance to their land the Bloody Gate because, during the Age of Heroes, a dozen armies supposedly smashed themselves against it. Even if they'd gotten through, the roads of the Vale are narrow, steep, and treacherous. Half the men would have slipped to their deaths, or frozen in the mountain snow. Or so the common wisdom goes. Except the Vale has been conquered. Those vaunted mountains didn't stop the Andals who came by the Eastern Sea. The people of the Vale say that Sir Artus Arryn, the Andal general, flew on the back of a giant falcon and slew the Griffin King on top of the tallest mountain. During Aegon's conquest, one of his sisters did the same, flying her dragon over the Bloody Gate and up to the Eyrie, the Arryn stronghold. And the Arryn boy king yielded the Vale in return for a ride on the beast. Do you sense the theme here? The rationalizing of defeats with mythical beasts and the whims of children, instead of acknowledging the root cause, the arrogance of isolation. The men of the Vale are so proud of their mountains, they can't abide any flaw in them. As with the mountains, so too with their blood. The first Andals landed in the Vale, as its most powerful lords, the Arryns, the Waynwoods, the Corbrays, like to brag. Through their veins runs the blood of the oldest Andal nobility in Westeros, but through their brains runs an even older folly. That blood matters. If it did, those pure-born lords should have been able to exterminate the Hill tribes centuries ago. But those primitive raiders, whose tribes more resemble kennels than families, continue to plague the Vale, even kidnapping an Arryn once. Until Tyrion Lannister, an outsider, no Vale lord ever thought to turn the tribes to the Vale's advantage. That a desperate, warlike people could be useful, not to mention inexpensive. But perhaps the Vale lords consider such thoughts beneath them. After all, the Vale's isolation does breed an abundance of honor and pious bleating, which governs their decisions instead of foresight. Like a blind man who can only guess where his horse is taking him. I doubt Jon Arryn had even prepared for civil war when he raised his banners instead of handing over his young wards, Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon, to the Mad King. Honor demanded, and Lord Arryn obeyed. He'd have done the same if the boys hadn't been the lords of two great houses, who could field mighty armies of their own. But perhaps I give him too little credit. After all, if the war went against them, only Lord Arryn had a nice, impregnable castle to retreat into, and he was wise enough to take poor Lysa Tully into his bed to win the Riverlands as allies. Jon Arryn won, then Jon Arryn died. Wisely, the Vale stayed out of all the ensuing chaos. Its crops did not burn or wither in the fields from lack of men to tend them. Its strength was not drained by forced marches to futile skirmishes. In the Vale, life proceeds as it always has. Calm, proud. A world of high honor undisturbed by armies and men of low birth, but high ambition. Impregnable.
I was born youngest of 8 in Myr, across the narrow sea. So my father gave me over to the Red Temple. In their wisdom, they decided to make me a priest instead of a warrior or a temple prostitute like other children.
But no.
It was not the path I would have chosen. Sure, I prayed the prayers and I spoke the spells, but I also led raids on the kitchens. And from time to time, they found girls in my bed. Such wicked girls. I never knew how they got there. Then again, I did have a gift for tongues. And when I gazed into the flames, well, from time to time I saw things. Even so, I was more bother than I was worth. When the High Priest foresaw Robert's ascension, he sent me to turn the Storm Lord to the Lord of Light. When Robert seized his crown, we'd take all of Westeros from the Seven in a single stroke. Perhaps they thought Robert would listen to a kindred spirit, or perhaps celibacy had addled the High Priest's brain. I didn't know, and didn't care. I was free. I did my duty as I saw it, drinking and whoring and waving my sword around. The only gods Robert cared about anyway. Years passed, Robert became king, I became a joke. We both became fat. I even won some glory in Greyjoy's rebellion, first through the breach and all that. It's amazing what boldness a full bladder can inspire. But Robert had stopped listening to my sermons a long time ago, even if I'd still bothered to give them. Then came Robert's death, and the war. I'm not speaking of those brats squabbling over the world's pointiest chair. Powers long asleep are waking and moving through the land. I've seen them in my flames. Shit, I've seen them with my own 2 eyes. The Lord of Light is real. And if he's real, then all of it is real. Man once again faces the war for the dawn, which has been waged since time began. On one side is the Lord of Light, the Heart of Fire, the God of Flame and Shadow. Against him stands the Great Other, whose name may not be spoken. The Lord of Darkness, the Soul of Ice, the God of Night and Terror. According to prophecy, our champion will be reborn, to wake dragons from stone and reforge the great sword Lightbringer that defeated the darkness those thousands of years ago. If the old tales are true, a terrible weapon forged with the lifeblood of a loving wife's heart. Part of me thinks man was well rid of it, but great power requires great sacrifice. That much, at least, the Lord of Light is clear on. I sound like a dried-out old woman, I know. But as our former hand liked to say, winter is coming. When the cold winds rise, all men, no matter their faith or lack of it, huddle beside my night fires.
Or lack
And
of
I
it.
pray the
faceless
prayers,
man, Jack
and
was saying.
speak the spells, and beseech the Lord of Light to bring back the dawn. So far, so good. But reprobate as I am, I can't help but wonder what will happen if, one day, our Lord does not answer. Imagine a night that goes on forever, so dark and full of terrors. I think I need another drink.
Lightbringer, remember when Stannis burnt all 7
And
of
took
the
the-
idols and he took the
For
sword out?
300
That's what they
years,
were
the
calling
Targaryen
Lightbringer.
dynasty
That's what they
ruled
call that sword,
Westeros.
right?
Yeah, she's
Wars
like,
were still
"Go
fought,
forth,
homes still
draw,
burned,
Lightbringer."
and men still died.
But is that
But
Lightbringer?
compared to the chaos of what came before,
Necessarily?
the realm was stable.
And boring. The Targaryens lied, thieved, and killed as much as other lords. They just had dragons to answer all complaints. Until they didn't. When the last dragon died, it was only a matter of time before the Targaryens followed,
By only, you mean another century?
Paris.
which they wasted trying to replace their lost advantage. Incinerating their own palaces to hatch dragon eggs, drinking wildfire to become dragons, and let's not forget the Mad King's favorite, burning men alive so he could pretend to be a dragon.
We urged Aerys to pardon Brandon Stark. The boy had threatened Prince Rhaegar, but Rhaegar had stolen the boy's sister. And the boy was the eldest son of our Warden of the North.
Who's the greater fool, a Mad King or the man who reasons with him? Aerys saw knives in every shadow. When you told him to treat the Starks with caution, you made him afraid. And what he feared, he killed.
I wouldn't have thought you, of all people, would bother with recriminations for Brandon's death, Lord Baelish. Not after your, shall we call it, duel with him?
Brandon was as arrogant as he was stupid. Like his father, Lord Stark, who answered Aerys' summon to the capital. They earned their fates. But the younger son, Ned, what was his crime that Aerys ordered his death as well?
Unlike men, families don't die when you lop off their head.
At the very least, you should have pointed out that loyal and dutiful Ned was living with Jon Arryn, a proud and over-righteous lord with an impregnable castle and no sons of his own. Perhaps you could have spared Aerys the embarrassment of revolt.
If only we'd had the foresight to consult you, Lord Baelish, but I suppose first we'd have had to know who you
I
were.
like this counterpoint.
Nobody knew Robert Baratheon either, yet he claimed the right to sit on the Iron Throne.
He had Targaryen blood, through his mother.
A pretty dress for an ugly truth. It was war, and he could swing a hammer harder than the other options. When did you know you'd lost, Lord Varys?
When Robert Baratheon killed Prince Rhaegar on the Trident.
Wrong. You lost the war when you let Ned Stark slip back into the north. Neither the bloody gate of the Vale or Moat Cailin in the north have ever fallen. They could have held out for years, even if you'd killed Robert. Would you let him slip through your fingers as well?
I told the court that Robert was hiding in the Stony Sept, but the hand of the king wasted too much time searching the city. Something about the glory of single combat. Then Ned Stark's army arrived to save the day.
Too bad Lord Tywin wasn't hand any longer. He would have simply razed the town and been done with it.
Perhaps. And perhaps the rebels would have found even more of the countryside flocking to their banners.
I'd almost forgotten. You weren't always so loyal to the Lannisters during the war, were you?
I did my duty to the realm. When Lord Tywin showed up at King's Landing professing loyalty, I warned Aerys not to open the gates. Prince Rhaegar was dead, our army scattered. The lion does not stir unless he smells meat.
I admire your powers of persuasion, Lord Varys. Few could traffic in so many secrets to so little avail.
Grand Maester Pycelle told Aerys what he wanted to hear, that his old friend Tywin was there to save him.
Then Aerys' old friend sacked the city, and his son stabbed Aerys in the back.
A regrettable, though necessary action.
As were the pardons the new King Robert bestowed on the Royalists. Mace Tyrell, Barristan Selmy, you.
King Robert wisely chose order over vengeance.
Jon Arryn wisely chose for Robert, but Jon Arryn died. Then Robert, then Ned. So ended their glorious revolution.
And Westeros has been burning ever since.
Let it.
How Targaryen of you. One of the mad ones.
Fire turns even the proudest oaks to ash, leaving newer roots space to climb.
Some houses rise to power through strength, others through wealth. House Frey gained its title through cunning. Centuries ago, its founder looked at a map and noticed how the trident spears the neck, cutting off the north from the south. He realized that a river of gold would flow to the man who owned the right bridge across the water. It took the Freys 3 generations to complete their forefathers' vision. A massive arch of smooth grey rock, wide enough for 2 wagons to pass abreast. When they were done, they built high curtain walls, deep moats, and heavy gates to protect the approaches, and put up squat, ugly, formidable keeps on either bank. The Twins, commanding both road and river with arrow slits, murder holes, and portcullises. The Twins ensure that no one crosses without begging the Freys' leave and paying the Freys' toll. The plan worked. The family grew rich and powerful, exacting gold from lords, merchants, and poor farmers. A good thing too, given the number of Freys the bridge has to support. The current lord, Walder Frey, has seen over 90 name days and sired near as many children, true-born or otherwise. A shameful thing in any other lord, but Walder Frey possesses no shame. A dangerous thing for any other lord, but Walder Frey has no concern for heirs or fear of their impatience. Perhaps Lord Frey thinks to
Surprised to not
outlast
see him
them
in your
all.
bottom 3, but I guess
Given
we
the
haven't seen him in a
infighting
while.
he encourages
Yeah.
among them, perhaps he will. Whatever the case, House Frey does nothing so well as
Yeah, it's
survive.
not scene. He's still probably
When the
number 1.
Ironborn
Kill
conquered
Rob.
and raised the river lands,
And-
the Freys
and
hid
the
in their
baby.
castle. When Aegon and House Tully swept the
Ned too.
Ironborn
Ned too.
back to their
Oh,
islands,
yeah.
the Freys hid in their castle. When my ancestor demanded their allegiance as Aegon's new Lord Paramount of the Trident, the Freys bent the knee from their castle. Perhaps then we should not have been surprised when my father, Lord Hoster Tully, called his banners against the Mad King, and Lord Walder didn't answer. The Baratheons, Starks, Aarons, and Tullys, some of the oldest and greatest houses of Westeros, fought and bled for the cause of justice, while House Frey hid in its castle and waited. No doubt if Rhaegar had won at the Trident, Lord Walder would have given him safe passage into the north, to destroy the rest of my husband's northern army for a fair price. But Rhaegar fell, and lo and behold, the Frey army appeared to render aid to our already victorious forces. Many sniggered that Lord Walder had been waiting for his army to come of age, having fielded it out of his own breeches. My own father named him the late Lord Frey, to the other lords' amusement. A slight that pricks Lord Walder to this day. In many ways, however, Lord Walder was wise. We had no guarantee of victory, and had he fought with us from the outset and we failed, he would have lost the bridge his family was so proud of. More pride than honor. Those should be the words of House Frey. Yet part of me wonders if Lord Walder waited not out of fear but hope. That we would be destroyed, leaving him to assume my family's place as Lord Paramount of the Trident. To buy the respect they've always wanted, but refused to earn. No. Not even Lord Walder could be so disloyal.
Oh, Catelyn.
All right.
If you only knew.
If you only knew. So, let's just stick on the phrase right there. So, first off, 2 reasons why people kind of dislike them. So, they built a bridge. They're like, hey, they look at a map and they're like, this is a good spot to build a bridge.
Yeah.
Let's tax people.
Yeah, that's smart.
Well, no, it is really smart.
Yeah.
And then, because of that, they were able to just kind of sit and be like, the Trident, which was like a turning point in Robert's rebellion, you know, because that's where Rhaegar died, where Robert killed Rhaegar.
Yeah.
It was just, they're just like, let's see who's gonna win. We're just gonna sit
We're
back.
gonna sit back and chill and wait.
And they are the late
The
phrase.
perfect timing. Yeah. Now he has his little nickname.
Yep. The late.
The traitorist is what I would call him. But
Yes. So that was, I mean, they'd alluded to a lot of that stuff in the show about, you know, how they had to pass the bridge and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
blah, and that's why Robb had to agree to so many concessions, whether or not he actually paid those
I
concessions.
didn't. But either way, he still shouldn't have. Fuck the phrase. Fuck the phrase.
Fuck the phrase. But yeah, no, it's not cheap crossing that.
No, and I wouldn't
Crossing
make it
that
cheap
bridge.
either. That's smart on their part.
Did you just gain a little respect for the phrase?
No.
No.
Well, if they had didn't,
No, like,
if they
it's
had didn't,
smart.
I think that. Well, I guess yeah, technically I got their respect for that, but they lost it when they broke, you know, their vows for Merman.
Yeah.
Or
Guess
whatever.
right.
Guess right. Yeah.
So, and then there's the story of the young lord of the Vale who, when he saw the dragon, he's
Just
like,
for a ride. I can see that new kid doing that. I want to ride. I want to fly.
oh yeah, make the bad man fly. I want to fly on a dragon.
On a dragon. Here's the veil. Oh my god, Littlefinger would be so pissed if he gave it to Daenerys for a ride on the dragon. Oh, that'd be so crazy.
It's been like, damn you, Robin.
Damn you, Robin. You could not give it for just a ride.
I also kind of felt sorry for the Riverlands because they always seem to be in the middle of everything. Like,
Yeah, the Tullys.
yeah, it's just like, damn, these people are at war. So, all right, we'll marry this.
They're smart though.
Yeah.
I mean, they keep swimming. Just keep swimming. They're
Just
good.
keep swimming.
But
We are the terrifying fish.
yeah, the blackfish slightly more terrifying.
Slightly more terrifying blackfish.
Black trout. But I mean, like you said, they also want to be there, and that comes with the territory. I mean, you're
Yeah.
in battlegrounds.
I mean, it's home.
It's home, but it's battlegrounds, and so
Yeah.
when there is a war, that's where it's fought because it's in the middle.
Middle of everything.
Everything, and so
To get anywhere.
it's
Just like,
obvious that it would be the main fight, like for battlegrounds. But they know that, and they also kind of want that because that's where they get their power from.
Well, and Walder Frey's probably kind of pissed that, you know, the Tullys are the
Wardens,
The
of,
wardens
the Trident,
of the Trident,
of the
yeah.
river, which is
Yeah.
impressive because they technically should be the Wardens considering they have the
bridge.
bridge, but the
Yeah.
Tullys have the
So
The port.
and that's the thing. Like,
or they don't even have the port. You're
when
right.
they were organizing the marriages, when they switched it from Robb to Edmure, they were rationalizing it, being like, this is still the best marriage the Freys have ever had. Because
Yeah.
nobody really wanted to deal with the Freys because
No.
everyone was pissed off about like paying all those tolls. And,
Yeah, so like
you know,
this is the
like-
best that they. That's why no one married Freys.
So when he was promised a king, that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And then switching it over to Edmure, I mean, yes, it's the best marriage that the house has ever had, but
It's not a king.
it's not a king.
Either way, it's still no excuse to betray them like that.
Yes.
Fuck
Yeah.
the Freys.
I believe when Bran was talking about wargs and stuff like that, one of the quotes that I liked was, is it the man wearing the beast or is it the beast wearing the man?
Yeah, I like that too.
And they were talking about around the time that Summer fell into that trap or whatever.
Which still hasn't came out yet, right? Did she die? I never saw Summer since. Well, I guess I can't ask if she died, but I have not seen Summer since that I can recall.
Okay.
Even after they left. Even after they made it to the tree, I still have not seen Summer.
And then
Snow I've seen.
Ghost.
Ghost, I mean, not Snow, yeah, Ghost.
Ghost is Jon Snow.
Ghost and Summer,
Yeah. But before Bran warged into Summer and did that, Jojen's like, you gotta come back.
Yeah.
If you're in it too long,
You'll get lost.
You'll get lost. You'll forget
Who you actually are.
your family. You'll forget your friends and stuff like that. So
You'll become the beast.
I noticed that you were kind of casting suspicious eyes when Lord Bolton was talking about stories of wearing the skins. Of enemies. And he's just like, oh, that's just stories that we tell to instill fear.
Yeah.
But you were just like,
Yeah, I could totally see that being a thing. I could totally see them having that in their keep and Ramsay wearing it at some point. It's fucked up.
Yeah. And then speaking of hidden torture things, Joffrey talking about...
in the keep, yeah.
That, like, even lower than the black cells, like...
I wonder if that's where a
torture
maester... that new shitty maester... Qyburn will go. Then that'll be, like, his little laboratory down there. Away from everyone. Because Cersei found it through Varys, because Varys actually knew.
Okay. So, yeah, those were the things that I wrote down. Like, was there anything else that kind of stood out from this?
No, I think
we watched that Jorah thing twice.
Yeah, I don't know why they included that twice, but
it was just like an editing thing. But...
I like the learning about the neck and the swamp and the monsters.
Oh, yeah.
That are probably
like, every time you hear about a mythical monster, you're just like, we're gonna
every time I see a mythical monster, like the mermaid or like any of those, I'm like, ooh, I really hope we can see them.
Or the Naga.
Or the Naga. Oh my god, that's the next thing I really want to see. I want to see a Naga. That, I really want a werewolf. Or people that turn into werewolves would be cool.
Okay.
But I haven't even seen that on. Well, one of the kids joked to Lissa one time about Rob being a werewolf, but besides that, we haven't about him. I just like werewolves. But besides that, I've seen now these river monsters, the Naga, and the mermaid.
That
we did
House
see mountains
Reed at the neck that was talking about this. So yeah, that I know. Yeah, you didn't catch that right away, but like, yeah, it's Jojen Reed, Mira Reed.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. Okay, yeah. But yeah, no, they seem cool. We didn't even see it's moving, but we didn't even see their castle even in the illustration.
But they are really close with House Stark.
Yeah,
because like they were saying that it's kind of like the neck is kind of like the gateway to the north.
And they did say it was weird, and the people were weird, which is funny. But Jojen's kind of dead now. But Jojen's
just a little
kind of weird.
He's got a little case of the dead.
Yeah, he's kind of not alive anymore. Poor Jojen.
Yeah, people were actually being like, not a reaction at all when Jojen died.
I know. I'm sorry. There's so many people.
We were shooting that past midnight. That was that episode 10? Yeah, that was episode 10.
Plus,
we watched episode 9 from like 11 o'clock to a little bit past midnight, and then episode 10 we were watching from like 12:30 to like 1:30 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
plus
like,
we were working before that. That's why we couldn't like just shoot earlier.
Sorry we weren't really high energy on that.
It wasn't even. I mean, those were true reactions because it wasn't even just the fact that I was tired, but the fact that like I knew Jojen was going to die already because he said he was going to die and said that he saw his own death already, and so like as much as I was sad to see him go, he did what he was supposed to do, and I kind of knew once they got to the tree he was going to die immediately, because that's what he said, is he'd get him to the tree, and that's what he did do. But I mean, I knew Jojen was going to die, so I wasn't
and it
surprised.
just kind of came out of nowhere, because like there's like this fight going on, like Mira blocks something, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to just something just like
stabbing Jojen.
And at first you're like, you just see a repetitive motion. It doesn't even like come across, because like even Jojen's not like crying out in pain. He's just like looking at this thing, stabbing it, and it takes a few seconds to kind of process it.
You're like, oh shit, he's dying.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think I was more panicked when he was like convulsing when they were in the hut. That would have been a better reaction, probably. Like if he would have died when they got captured at Craster's.
Oh, when Locke
had him,
okay.
and not Locke.
Not Locke, but I know this guy's name. Freaking the best cutthroat in Janelle, or
that guy who died, who got a sword through the fucking back of the skull through his mouth from John. Whatever that guy's name is, he had him. But if Jojen would have died during that situation, especially with Mira about to get raped in front of like Bran and stuff, that would have been more. I'd be like, "Are you fucking?" I gotta be fucking pissed. But like, it almost was like a heroic death. So I think that's why it didn't hit me. Sorry, because it was like Jojen fulfilled what he needed to as a character. Fulfilled his destiny of getting Bran to throne. So it was almost like a peacefulness that, like, and I think that's why they didn't. It was a gruesome death. He got stabbed by a White Walker through the snow. But I mean, I think it wasn't like, as negative as I thought. It maybe came across to people who really love Jojen.
And when I asked you that question about like why he was seeing his burning hand, one of the two things you were talking about was that he was going to die by fire.
Yeah.
And one of the children of the forest, like after he dies, they don't want him to
blue.
Turn into white.
Of course, yeah.
So she's like, poof,
and lit him a flame.
Magic grenade.
Plus, I think he was dying. I don't think he was fully dead yet.
Right.
Maybe he was fully dead. I don't know.
Well,
either way,
Mira slit his throat.
Oh, that's right. She did.
Yeah, because like he was getting stabbed, and she's just like, "Fuck, I have to do this."
Yeah, she took way too long.
If anything, that was the more emotional.
Yeah, that was pretty sad. But like, if anything, it was more frustration because she was about to get everyone killed, or herself killed, possibly. And then I didn't know how that worked with everyone else. All I knew was that she was taking an exceptionally long time to kill Jojen when she knew Jojen was not going to make it, and she was like, I can't imagine what that was like. I'm just saying, still though, in the context of the show, she needed to hurry the fuck up. Right? I was like more pissed that she wasn't just killing Jojen and running, but she because there was White Walkers whites everywhere. So yeah. Anyways,
cool. All right, so History and Lore season 3.
Can't wait for season 4. There's probably gonna be so much more. I'm gonna be like pumped for because it always gives you enough for the next season.
Yeah, we're up to date on season 4 now. So, we're already watching season 5. So this is and again, I haven't seen any of the History and Lore, so like this is new stuff for me, which is why I'm actually writing more stuff down. Because I also don't have questions from you guys. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
Or if I see Joey react to something, I'm just like, well, writing that down.
All right.
So, all right. So that's good for this one. And then we're going to go watch season 4's History and Lore right now.